Hey y'all, hope you're all doing well. I'm here to talk about something I beat a while ago in a series of videos that I was making. That's kind of like sporadic. So this is Persona 3. So I started, I played Persona 4 Golden, which is the PSP Vita one or PSP version. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fantastic. So when Persona 5 came out, I played that and thought that was awesome as well. And I'm like, I'm going to go back and play the original Persona games, right? I haven't really spent that much time playing the Megumi Tensei games. I have them all. I have like the ROMs and whatnot of most of them. But so I played the first one. I actually really enjoyed it. It's like a very intense, like old school dungeon crawler, like wizardry or whatever, but very Japanesey. And then I played Persona 2. There's like two parts to 2, and I pretty much enjoyed those. The stories were very good. I talk about both of them somewhere on this channel. They're very rich and interesting, and they go through. And then we got to Persona 3, and I feel like Persona 3 is like a transition phase away from like linear, very intense, like adult-oriented stories to like the high school stories that you get in like 4 and 5. And then in 3 is when they introduce all like the side missions, like the Bond stories. I can't remember what they call them in the Persona series, but it's where you build up relationships with random people and whatnot. And I just feel like the game sacrifices a lot of like the structure of the main plot, which I feel like 4 also did not have a very strong main story. It was good, but it wasn't great. And 5 did a really good job with it. So 5 is really excellent. And like, it's kind of like, it's like the evolution, right? So you have 3, which the main story is like, I'm going to talk about it, but it's almost like, who cares? And then the Bond stories aren't that good. And then in 4, I feel like the Bond stories were great. Like all the characters you interacted with, I still remember them. I played that game like 20 years ago or something. Maybe it wasn't that long ago, but I played it like a long time ago. And I still think about like Rika and stuff. And I'm like, God, she's one of my top waifus of all time for sure. But all of them, like the I can't remember their names, but then you have like the Japanese shrine maiden lady, and she's hot. And then you have Chia, I remember her name, the tomboy, she's great. And then the bear guy, the mascot character was good. And like I remember them better than I remember the Persona 5 characters. And I played the game like 10 years afterwards or so. Like much sooner, because I just don't feel like I feel like the main story was much better in 5, but then the Bond stories weren't as good. Like I didn't feel as invested into the characters. So 4 had the best characters, and then 5 had the best story. But then the main story or the side characters in 5 were fine. They weren't. I just don't remember them as well. And then the main story of 4 was good too. Like it wasn't great like in 5, but 3 is like, it's not good in either place. And I really didn't enjoy the game that well, to be completely honest. Like I was playing through it, and I was checking out a lot in the main story because it's just like I didn't care. And then there wasn't a single character, it's not like side character, that I was like interested in at all, like as being like a waifu or even just like being interesting to go through their stuff. And it's like I just kind of arbitrarily chose like the girl who's in your main party as being like the main love interest because she was like the cutest. And like the models are fine. Or when I say models, I mean the drawings. The girls are all pretty, but it's just none of them reached my soul as like as being a character that like I really thought about. And I played this in the Vita, so you're gonna get just like I just downloaded some like shots of characters because I didn't take any like video because it was on. I just played on the Vita while I was like at the gym and stuff. So to me, this is the worst Persona game because there's just nothing really. There's no reason to play this game, and like they just remade it, and people have like a fondness for it, but I don't get the fondness. It's just I do not find this game that interesting to play or anything. Like you lose out on like the talking stuff when it comes to like earlier iterations, which came back in 5, and I'm not necessarily a big fan of that, but it's like the game is just like not as good as from like the main story perspective. Like everything that made the Persona games good up to this point, it kind of like gets worse at. It doesn't drop it completely. Like the game's not terrible. It's just like if someone's like, should I play Persona? And this would never be on my list of things to like play. And maybe the redo, because I played the original, or not the original. So there was the original and like the PlayStation 2 most likely, I want to say, or maybe the 3. And then there's the PSP version, which I played, which cuts out a lot of like, instead of like having like a 3D world to wander around in, you just kind of like click through stuff. If I remember correctly. Yeah. So it cuts out a lot of like travel time, but I'm fine with that. Like, if anything, it made the game a lot less easy. Okay, let's see. So yeah, the stories. What did I play? The story's boring. The relationships I did not enjoy, and there was a lot of grinding. And so there was nothing there that I enjoyed. Yep. Okay. So I was going to do AI images, but every now and then I just get like, it becomes like more work than is effort, than it's worth it to like get things to look correctly. So I just like give up. Anyway, so the story focuses on main character, Silent Pro Tycoon, like in the future games, like Joe Jester or whatever they call him and then think his name is Gen or something in 4. Anyway, they're more interesting even with as silent protags. Like the silent protag has like nothing. It's literally just like a homunculus for you to insert yourself into. Anyway, he's trying. He heads back to his hometown after 10 years, something about his parents having recently died. And then he ends up in this dorm with like a bunch of creepos. And on his way over there, he meets Pharos. Pharos is like the big kind of like, he's like one of the eldritch like beings that exists for like good or ill in the Persona series. You know, the butterfly guy from the previous games. He kind of sort of disappeared. Like, I don't think he's in 4 at all. And I think they mention him or you see like butterflies in 5 at some point. I don't really remember. I don't really remember him from those games, but so they kind of, maybe they just like got rid of him altogether, like slid him into like the Velvet Room aspect of things. We also get introduced to several other characters, some of the members of our team. We find out that everyone in this dorm are members of the Secret Extracurricular Execution Squad, or SEAS. And it's like, oh, what's SEAS? Well, it's the group that can stay awake during the like dark hour. The dark hour is what happens between like midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, or it's like between midnight. It's like 11:59 and 12 o'clock. It's like the midnight, the dark hour. This comes up in the Persona games a lot. It's like this whole bizarre concept. And when that goes on, like everybody freezes and people turn into like gravestones, and then like the monsters come out and stuff, and like people go crazy. And so we get like everyone who's a member of SEAS has these special guns that they they shoot themselves in the head with. They kill themselves to like release their persona. Like they blow their brains out. Like, you know, it's all very symbolic. And I remember it causing a stir when this game came out. Like after I started playing, and I was like, oh, I remember people complaining about this. I think this is like one of the better choices they made in this game, in my opinion, because it like, oh yeah, you're like deadening your mask. You're essentially destroying your mask by shooting yourself in the head in your brain with like this magic gun, so that you can release like the persona, so that you can have activation and fight these monsters and stuff. And so it's pretty good. All right. And the game gets like it talks about this whole thing, and it's very invested, and everyone's like blah 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 blah, and then it like for like 10 minutes, and then it never comes up again. They just like really focus on it, which is part of the problem with this game. It'll bring stuff up, it'll be very important, and then it kind of like hand waves itself away, and then it like they just move on with other things. But yeah, it's killing your conscious, so your unconscious powers can come through. Anyway, so these phantoms that come up, they cause this thing called the apathy syndrome in people. So they'll like attack people, but they don't kill them. They put them in kind of like almost like a vegetative state, not like where they're in a hospital in a vegetative state, but they just have like no energy, no emotional stuff going on. And then they people start just existing without purpose or meaning. So we sees its task as trying to stop these phantoms so that people can live their lives and have like not be apathetic anymore. Let's see. The first time Protag-kun summons his persona, he learns that he can summon many personas, right? So again, he's super special boy, where he can pull in personas with like all these personalities and whatnot, because it's supposed to, again, it's like representation is that like each individual person brings their own thing to it, and since he's like our avatar, it's like a very Ultima kind of like way of like viewing things when it comes to like the representation of the character and how you possess them and how you have all these different personality traits and things that are going on. Anyway, so at that point we go to the Velvet Room. Again, the Velvet Room is where Igor is, and there's always like a woman or like a couple women or like representations of like there's like different forces in this like Velvet Room, and it's where we deal with our persona stuff. We can upgrade, combine, we can get advised on social links, all this stuff. Social links, that's what they call them. So not bond stories. That's Nike. Goddess of Victory. And so if you played 4 or 5, the social links are exactly the same. You spend time with people, you build their social links, you have to make correct choices and conversations with them, you get more points. The points are all done in the background, you have no idea what kind of points you're getting, and then eventually you can like max stuff out. And to get the good ending of the game, you have to max out like a lot of them. I don't think all of them, because I know there was at least 2 I did not max out. And then like the whole game really, I feel like probably because the social points thing was added here, it was a heavy focus, and I'm sure it played well, because it's like, oh, you can find a girl you like or a boy you like, and you can invest all your energy in this. Oh yeah, and you can be a female silent protag in this version. In the original version, you can only be a boy, but they added the female later on, and they do have slightly different endings, is my understanding. And then there's one dungeon in this game called Tartarus, and it's like a giant tower, and you just go up, and at certain time frames, so it's got the calendar year, right? So all this stuff from Persona 5 and 4 that people love, like were introduced here, they were just introduced in like a boring way. But it's like one of those things where it's like, I'm not mad at Persona 3. I don't think it's like a bad game. It's just like, why would you, because these games are fucking long, why would you play Persona 3 when Persona 4 or 5 are right there? Like, there's nothing in this game that you need to have to know how to play the other two games. The other two games are vastly superior. So if you played 4 and 5 and you got everything out of them and you just want like a different experience that's similar, then I guess you can play 3. I'd almost say, like, I'm sure there's some other like knockoff version of this concept. I mean, there's like that old PlayStation game that did a better job of like the social links. Was it like Twisted Arms or Thousand Arms or something like that? Like Persona 3 just is, there's nothing to recommend, right? If you really love 4 and 5 and you just want a different experience, then you could play 3 and get like roughly the same experience. It's going to be inferior in every possible way, but again, maybe the remake fixed some of that boringness. I don't know. If they kept the story, it's just kind of like the story again. It's like one of those things where it's like compared to the other Persona games, like if Persona 4, which is my favorite, but like Persona 5 is objectively like a 9 or 10 out of 10. It's not, I don't ever like to give me like a perfect game, but it's like, if we're looking at like some of the best games of all time, Persona 5 is on that list. I would say it's like one of the best games ever made, not just like a JRPG, like, right. It's excellent. I like 4 better because I like the characters in it better and the story is more fun in my opinion. But objectively 5 is a better game. Subjectively 4 is my favorite game. And then 3 is like 3 is like a 7, right? And not like an IGN 7. A 7 is in like if 5 is a purely average game, it's a good game. Like Persona 3 is a good game. It's just, I don't know why you'd wait. These games are so fucking long. Is the thing. This is not like an 8-hour game. This is like if you're going to play this game, it's going to be like 40 to 60 hours. And if you're going to invest 40 to 60 hours into something, there's so many better things out there that do exactly the same thing. Well, there's at least 2 other games that do the same thing. And I'm sure there's other ripoffs that might be shorter or, more enjoyable. Because there's other games that have like love interests that you can build up along with the main game. So it just, for me, it's like, I don't know why I'd ever play this. If this was the only thing like this, it'd probably be rated higher. Or even if it's still rated as 7, but there was nothing else like it, I'd be like, what's an interesting game and it's pretty fun and like you can't really do this anywhere else. So like I would give it a shot. But because like Persona 4 and 5 and at some point I'm sure 6 exist, those games are far better. So I would play those games instead. Okay. Yeah, so the calendar system's introduced, right? So like you just go through each day and you have like, what do you have? Usually you have 2 to 3 time periods that you can do stuff in. And during those time periods, you can also go to Tartarus to get through levels. The level, like every like 40 levels, I want to say, of Tartarus, and they're all procedurally generated. You hit like you hit like a lock, and then after a certain time frame goes, like pretty much the main story point hits, that it opens up like the next 40 levels that you can get through, and you can just go grind out there if you want. And then social links, you just go through the days. You have to build up stats as well. It's very, very grindy in that regard. And it just was not enjoyable to play through it. Because the stories, because some of these characters I just did not care about. There was like Drunk Monk. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And there's every full moon, it's like when you deal with some of the main story stuff. So like you go through like a whole month, and every month there's like a little bit more of the main story. Let's see. Social links aren't great. So in terms of the main story, so Seas is quested with destroying the 12 tarot bosses on each of the full moons. So there's one full moon every month. So throughout the year, you will destroy the 12 bosses, and then the Dark Arrow will supposedly go away. So that's the goal of the game. So for most of it, you're just doing social links, and you need the social links to get the good ending, and you get other kind of bonuses too. But there's a lot. Like there's like more than 12. Like I said, I missed at least 2, and I got the good ending, so whatever. So the main focus, so the main characters are, so there's Chairman Guy, and he's this adult that advises everybody. He's like kind of like the head of the school and stuff, and he runs Seas. And there's School President Lady who's got red hair. She's nice. She's kind of like, she's the leader of Seas, and her family is super important and like tied into the school system and stuff. And then there's like Angry Punching Guy, and he's a friend of the school president girl, and he likes to punch things, and he's angry. He's distant most of the game, and then he comes around later on, and like his friend joins Seas at some point, and there's like tragedy there. And we find out later that his sister died in a fire or something. Then there's Cute Sassy Girl, and she starts off like she's like a tsundere, so of course she's the character I chose a romance because I hate myself. So she starts off being like, oh, I hate Pro Tycoon, and then in the end you can become a love interest, and she's the cutest girl, so whatever. And then there's like Silly Classmate Boy, of course, so it's like every one of these games. There's Cute Quiet Girl, she's got short hair, she's very artistic and sweet. And then that's like the main cast of the Seas, and then she feels like the Rika role, where she just like advises, she doesn't actually play a part in the battles. And then, so during the main story, you run into this other group, they call themselves Striga, they can also do personas, but they summon like fake surf personas, so they got artificial surf personas or something. They're kind of assholes. The Joker friend, or like the oh, I'm a silly boy. He falls in love with like the girl of the group, and they have like, you can encourage that romance, and you need to do that as well to get like the good ending, because then they have like a relationship and it like resolves some of the problems between everybody. But they get these like fake artificial personas by using drugs or something. And they have to take the drugs so that the artificial personas don't take them over and like kill them, because it's not actually a part. They're not unlocking anything. They're just like accessing these phantoms they essentially attach to themselves. And we spend a lot of time talking about who they are, what are they doing. We get a lot of like kind of like, meanwhile, the bad guys are doing this kind of stuff. There's a lot of like incorrect information, a lot of stuff that's not being told to us. The chairman guy becomes kind of like sketchy around halfway through the game. And then we find out also about halfway through the game that the school president girl, that her family is the Koji group, and they're responsible for unlocking the Dark Hour and Tartarus by doing some like sketchy research, and like, because they found out a way to gather phantoms, and then when they gathered them to phantoms, they called them like a shadow, and then they kept calling the phantoms, and then they kept calling them phantoms. Persona and shadow make more sense. Oh, that's just me talking to myself. Sorry. Anyway. So they start trapping all these like shadow instances, the phantoms or whatever, and eventually they escaped. And then they combined into make the 12 major arcana, right? And so these full moon bosses are these like giant phantoms, essentially. So it's like when a whole bunch of like the death arcana phantoms got together, they merged into like a super boss, and those are the bosses we're killing. Also, later on in the game, we get some more people who join the party. There's like Orphan Boy, who's super annoying. There's Punchy Guy's brother, who uses a spear. And like he used to be with C's, and then he left, and then he comes back. And then there's like a whole side story between the Orphan Boy and the brother, where the Orphan Boy's mother was killed by Spear Boy when his persona went wild. And that's part of the reason he left, because he couldn't control his persona, and he felt so negative about the whole thing and whatnot. This whole thing. Oh yeah, and then we found out the bad guys like Striga are looking for something called like the Navigator, and then the orphan is pretending to be that guy and almost gets killed. But then Spear Boy comes, and Spear Boy, the brother, sacrifices his life to save him, and then the orphan like forgives him, and then the orphan like officially joins, and then Punchy Guy comes around and stops being such an asshole because his brother sacrificed his life and gave him like good advice at the end, you know, all that good stuff. It's like a really big deal. It's like a whole portion of like act 2 or 3 of the story, right? If I break this up into like quarters, and there's like 4 acts in this game, like act 3 is really centered around this like concept before we get to like the fade out, the 4th act. And this helps like the whole team commit and become stronger, and after this point people can start like leveling up their personas to like the evolutionary next stage. We also get a dog, which is fucking awesome. And when I got him, I was like, fuck yeah. He has a knife in his mouth, and he attacks and has fire magic. So he was in my party the rest of the game, as far as that's concerned. And then we got a female android who has a cute, like, short bob haircut. And I was like, she's the next. And so I had girlfriend character, and then the dog, and then the android were members of my team for like the rest of the fucking game. And at first she's like stalking the protag coon. And she like found this on vacation. No, we go on vacation to like Okinawa or something. And then there's like an old research lab, and we go in there and we fight some assholes. And then, let's see. Dun, 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 more time we fight. No, let's see. Found team is on. An old research lab. All right, so more time goes by after she joins and whatnot. And then we fight we fight the Striga guys, and then the girl gets put in the hospital, and there's all sorts of shenanigans there, like the Striga girl. And it looks like the 2 guys like killed themselves by jumping off a bridge. And then we find out that the master of this whole thing, that's running the whole thing, is dun dun dun, the chairman. Oh no, he was betrayed. This whole thing's a betrayal. It's a whole redirect. And then we find out they signed to summon Nyx. Oh, Nyx, that asshole. Right. It's like Pharos and Nyx are the 2 main forces in the Persona games up to this point. Then afterwards, like no one really cares about either of them that much. But it's a big guy. And then we find out the Koji group was trying to summon Nyx. That was the whole point of the shadows and everything. And that the chairman guy is going to finish their work, even though they're done with that shit. And that somehow he takes control of, I can't remember her name, the android girl, and he captures everybody. But before he can kill us all, she overcomes like the mind control and saves us, because guess what? Friendship is magic. That's right. Friendship is fucking magic. So she saves everybody because the power of friendship is so strong, and she overcomes like the programming in her system. And I was like, hell yeah, that was the best part of the game, hands down. It is. I'm not even joking. I was like, hell yeah, friendship. Then then the school president lady, who's a part member of her team, her dad gets killed at this point. She like shows up to die, and then it looks like the chairman falls to his death, but there's still like a fifth of this game left, so obviously he's coming back. So then we go back to school, and it's more social links, and shit's just happening and whatnot. And then a new kid, the mysterious boy, shows up, and the android girl's like, I don't trust this guy. And later on, cute girl senses that a member of the asshole group outside the dorm, and we go and we see it's the girl. Oh no, this is where she goes to the hospital. I'm sorry, I brought that up too soon. So she's like hanging out. She's had like a romantic fling with the silly classmate, and he's like super distraught because she's acting really weird. And then the other assholes show up, and they say, and they're mad at us because we poisoned her, and she's in danger. And then her boyfriend, who's our silly classmate, they get into like an argument, and then they pull out guns to shoot him. And as they're shooting our silly classmate, the girl who's in love with him at this point jumps in the way and gets shot. And then they run off, and we take her to the hospital. And this is where I'm saying, like, he gets super distraught. And there's like a week or two, like every day, all you're doing is like, should I go to the hospital? You're giving advice to silly friend to know what he should do with this girl and whatnot. And it's actually decently written, right? Again, this game isn't bad. It's just not as good as the other games. And like this Bond story is like, or social link is the social link between the silly friend and this girl is like stronger than any of the social links you make with any of the characters in the game. So I was like, I really hope they get together. Like I actually care about them being in a relationship, unlike any of the girls in this game that I'm trying to hook up with. I'm just gonna like, it's fine. So if you want the good ending, you got to support him at this point. If you don't, you get the bad ending. Anyway, going back over to like the new kid and the android girl, at some point they finally get into like a fight, and the android girl gets seriously injured. And then we find out that this new kid, that he's the offspring of like the 12 bosses, the shadows and whatnot, and that we have until the new year to defeat him, or he's going to usher in the end of the world because of Nyx or some bullshit like that. And that we also find out that he fought Aegis like 10 years ago, and that what I write here? Invaded to his parents. Oh, okay. And that he tried to possess the Pro Tycoon, and that somehow that's related to like his parents getting killed or whatever. I don't remember exactly what's going on. It was one of those times I was like really checked out because I was like, this is so boring. I don't care. Anyway, but somehow this character and the fight with Aegis, that's her name, of the android girl, has something to do with like the death of the Protag's parents and how he ended up here. And so everything's like connected because it's a telenovela. And so at this point, you can like make your decision, I guess. And if you choose to do the bad ending is literally just like, we will forget everything. Just let Nyx in the dark hour do whatever it's going to do, and we're just not getting involved. And you just like graduate high school, and everyone stays friends or some bullshit. I never got it. I looked it up online, and it was like, okay, that looks fine. Anyway, so the actual ending, so you choose, because at some point you have to choose if you're going to kill this kid or not. And if you kill him, then you get the bad ending, for sure. But if you choose not to kill the new kid, then the assholes, they're all alive, like the chairman and the two other guys, and they start a cult for Nyx, and then they set themselves up against Seas and say Seas is the enemy, and so the people become like even more apathetic, and the whole town gets like super dystopian because of the increased apathy syndrome. Causes all these problems. And then like the last day of January or the last day of December, we have to like climb up Tartarus all the way to like defeat Nyx. And then we kill the assholes, and then we finally face Nyx. And we find out that the kid was the avatar of Nyx, and it's like, bro, this battle sucked because we have to fight him 12 different times, and he takes on each arcana separately, so we have to fight all 12 arcana. And it's not that they're hard or anything, but there's a couple times when it's like my setup, I had nothing that the guy was weak against, like, you know. And so it's just like the battle's just like drag. Sometimes I'd like almost one shot this guy because like I had all this stuff, and then at other times it was like my main character was the only one who could do damage. So it was like I had to wait, attack, wait, attack, wait, attack, and it was just like it just dragged on. And then one of the times I had to wait, attack, and then this dude would like heal, and I was like, Jesus Christ! Like it took forever. It took like I think this battle took me like a full hour to get through because it was so long and awful, and I hated it. And then we're gonna we kill Nyx, but then we have to. Oh no! So once we beat him, he starts killing people around the world, and so then we have to use the power of friendship. Yep, the power of our social links, because friendship is magic, and we use all the love and the power of friendship and all that stuff to seal Nyx up for good. But this costs the life of the main character, and then later on, everyone's like graduating and kind of thinking about what happened and whatnot. And they're like, maybe we should go to the roof. And then everyone's like, oh, I feel like we need to go to the roof of the school after this graduation. I really feel we need to go there. And so they all head up there, and there's Android Girl, Aegis, with Protect Code. And he's like, what's up? And it's like, cool. And then the game just ends, and it's like, cool. So anyway, that's Persona 3. Again, it was all right. I wasn't a big fan. But for me, it's like story, right? Like all these things, I don't just like focus. I try to focus on the story with these like kind of like reviews. For any reason besides the fact that like the main reason I play these games is because of the story. Like gameplay for a lot of these games is like, I like being engaged with like these interesting stories. And this game the story is not that good. The playing the game wasn't that fun either. Because if I'm playing like Dark Souls and the story is like so fucking cryptic, and it's like I'm not really here for the story. I'm here to like play this game and fight bosses, right? But the story is still interesting. Anyway, all right. So that's Persona 3. It's all right. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and I will catch you guys later. Bye.